What if I told you that in the 1800s, the richest people in society sometimes went weeks, yes, weeks, without a proper bath? And what if I told you that having a private bathroom wasn't just a luxury, it was a weapon in the social status game? Imagine attending a grand ball, dripping in diamonds, only to have your reputation destroyed because of something that happened behind a bathroom door. These weren't just rooms for washing, they were stages for vanity. Silent battlegrounds of etiquette, and occasionally, crime scenes of gossip. Stay with me until the end, because every detail of this scandal will make you look at the 19th century's elite in a way you never have before. You know, when we think about the 1800s, it's easy to picture grand estates, sweeping staircases, and glittering chandeliers. But what most people don't realize is that one of the most powerful symbols of wealth wasn't hanging in the ballroom, it was hidden behind a door upstairs. In the world of aristocrats, a private bathroom was more than a place to wash, it was a silent announcement, I have arrived. Back then, indoor plumbing was still a rare luxury. Even in the wealthiest neighborhoods, installing one meant tearing up floors, bringing in complicated piping systems, and, most importantly, having a steady supply of clean water at your command. For many families, the cost of just one such room could rival the price of a small cottage. So if you had one, you didn't just own a bathroom, you owned proof that you lived a life untouched by the discomforts of the lower classes. I remember reading an account of a visiting diplomat who described being shown an aristocrat's bathroom as if it were an art gallery. The marble basins gleamed, the taps were polished until they reflected candlelight, and the air smelled faintly of imported lavender soap. No one actually mentioned using the space, it was all about displaying it. The way one might show off a rare painting. And to be honest, I can't help but smile at the thought. Even in the privacy of their own homes, they were still playing the social game. It's fascinating, isn't it? A room designed for the most intimate human needs became a theater of status. And as we'll see, when luxury and privacy collided, the results weren't always as polished as the porcelain fixtures. Which brings us to the strange and sometimes baffling bathing rituals that defined high society in the 19th century. If you're imagining the aristocrats of the 1800s sinking into steaming, bubbly baths every evening, I'm afraid reality was far stranger. In fact, many of them treated bathing not as a necessity, but as a kind of performance. There were scented sponges, silver pitchers of warmed water, and attendants bustling about as if preparing for a royal audience. And yet, despite all the ritual, some members of the elite might only fully bathe a handful of times a month, sometimes less. You see, at the time, there was a lingering belief that too much bathing could actually weaken the body. Doctors warned that overexposure to water might open the pores to illness. So instead, the wealthy developed a habit of refreshing themselves with a perfumed cloth or a dab of cologne. Especially before public appearances, a Grand Duchess might spend hours having her hair powdered and her gowns adjusted, but the bath might be nothing more than a gentle sponge over the arms and face. I once came across a diary entry from a young lady in London who described her bathing routine before an important dinner. Her maid poured rosewater into a shallow porcelain bowl, dipped a soft cloth, and dabbed her skin while she sipped tea and read the latest society gossip. It sounds elegant, almost cinematic, but you can imagine what it must have been like in the height of summer. Wearing layers of silk and corsets. And here's the thing that really gets me, for them, the ritual wasn't about feeling clean in the way we think of it today. It was about feeling prepared, stepping into the public eye with an aura of refinement. Whether or not there was actual soap involved, cleanliness was measured as much by scent and appearance as by the touch of water. But, as with all things wrapped in glamour, there was a catch, because behind the scented oils and polite smiles, the practicalities of plumbing and privacy were, let's just say, less than graceful. And those little imperfections? They had a way of becoming very public. Which is exactly what we'll uncover in the next part. When plumbing, privacy, and gossip all collide in the most unexpected ways. Now, here's where the shine starts to wear off the marble. Indoor plumbing in the 1800s was ambitious. But it wasn't always reliable. Pipes were prone to leaks. Drains could gurgle and moan like something alive. And in the wrong house, water pressure might turn a graceful trickle into an embarrassing sputter. And if you think that was just an inconvenience, Imagine it happening in the middle of a lavish dinner party, when half the city's elite are gathered under one roof. You see, aristocratic homes were designed for beauty first, practicality second. Servants carried water up and down staircases, sometimes spilling it on priceless carpets. Early flush toilets, imported from the most fashionable manufacturers, could roar so loudly that they startled guests in the next room. And if the plumbing ran through a ballroom wall, as it sometimes did, you might find the music interrupted by an unmistakable clank or rush of water. I once read about a countess in Paris whose reputation suffered not because of any scandalous affair, but because her new, modern, toilet overflowed during an evening reception. The incident left a trail of water down the grand staircase, right past the footman. Within days, whispers spread through the salons, not about her gowns or her jewels, but about the smell. In a society obsessed with appearances, that was enough to make her the subject of every cruel little joke in town. And honestly, I get it. These homes were like living stages. Any mishap, no matter how small, became part of the performance. The bathroom, meant to be a sanctuary of privacy, could suddenly become the scene of a very public embarrassment. And if you think people today gossip, well, the 19th century aristocracy practically turned it into a competitive sport. But sometimes, those accidents weren't just accidents. Some of the juiciest scandals of the era began with what happened behind a locked door, and ended with the whole city talking. Which brings us to the moments when a bathroom didn't just cause embarrassment, it blew the lid off secrets that were never meant to be heard. What's fascinating is how something as simple as a bathroom could ripple through the social and cultural life of the 1800s. These scandals, whether it was a plumbing disaster, an overheard whisper, or a door that opened at precisely the wrong moment, didn't just vanish into thin air. They shaped how people behaved, how they entertained, even how they built their homes. For the aristocracy, privacy began to take on a new meaning. In earlier decades, life in a grand house was almost communal. Servants were everywhere. Doors were often left open, and personal boundaries were far looser than we're used to today. But after a few too many bathroom incidents, households started tightening the rules. Servants were trained to be nearly invisible during personal routines. Architects began designing more discreet layouts, tucking bathing rooms into corners where guests could neither see nor hear what went on inside. And in a way, it shifted culture itself. Bathing started to be tied not just to health or comfort, but to dignity. A well-kept, well-hidden bathroom became a symbol of refinement. Much like having a library stocked with leather-bound books or a carriage polished to a mirror shine. It was a mark that you not only had money, but also the sophistication to handle it properly. I can't help but think of it like a game of quiet one-upmanship. If your rival's bathroom had marble, yours had imported Italian marble. If they had a single silver tap, you had two, one for hot, one for cold, both gleaming like jewels. And yet, beneath all the polish and pride, everyone knew that a single mishap could undo years of carefully curated image. It's a reminder that even in the most glamorous eras, reputation could be as fragile as porcelain, and often just as easy to crack. And as we'll see in the final part, those delicate reputations would inspire new rules of etiquette, setting the stage for the hygiene habits and privacy standards we still follow today. Looking back now, it's almost funny how much power those Victorian bedchambers and bathrooms seemed to hold. They were supposed to be private spaces, yet they dictated social standing, shaped architecture, and could make or break reputations with a single mishap. Today, we know that many of the rules around bathing and bathroom etiquette from that era were built on half-truths, superstition, and a dash of vanity. And yet, some of those habits, like keeping certain routines behind closed doors, have quietly survived into the present day. Modern plumbing, of course, has stripped away the drama. We don't need servants ferrying buckets of hot water. And no one's hosting a party just to show off a marble tub. But here's the part one find fascinating. Even with all our convenience, privacy and presentation still matter to us. Maybe it's the Instagram perfect bathroom shelf, or the scented candles carefully arranged before guests arrive. The props have changed, but the performance? Not entirely. I think the real lesson here is that the Victorians weren't so different from us. They lived in a world where appearances mattered, where the smallest detail could shape someone's opinion of you. and where the space you prepared yourself in each morning could feel like a reflection of who you were. We've traded the gossip-filled drawing rooms for online comment sections. But the desire to curate our image is timeless. So the next time you walk into your bathroom, whether it's a tiny apartment shower or a sprawling spa-like retreat, take a moment to appreciate just how far we've come, and how much of the past still lingers in our everyday habits. And if you enjoyed peeling back this velvet curtain into the 19th century, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have we really left those Victorian values behind? Or have we just dressed them up in modern plumbing? Share your take in the comments. Give this video a like if you found it fascinating. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next scandalous slice of history we uncover.